Today we're going to look at the tools that we use to remove staples or tacks from your work. Ripping out is another way of putting it when you're actually taking a piece apart. And first of all I'm going to show you how to use the various staple removers that we sell and the tools that you use alongside of them. Here we have a straightforward staple remover. Horseshoe shape, and that's probably the cheapest one that you can buy, but as there are various types of staples, different widths, you can get a gimp staple that's very narrow. That one might not be able to take it out, plus this one is not designed to twist. You would take the staple out so far and then use pincers for the rest. This particular staple remover has a very fine fork on the end, and that is very good at removing all types of staples, no matter how narrow, and the shape of it is very good because the angle is good on it as well. It's a very strong handle, it's an Osborne, and so it's an extremely good make, and that's probably the best of the three that I'm showing you today. It has more applications, but of course its price will reflect that. The third one is known as a berry. Sometimes they're not actually made by Berry, they can be a Berry style, but the staple remover is basically the same. And this one is designed for twisting, and you can see again it will remove very narrow staples, and it's used by getting it under the staple and twisting it. When you're taking staples out, you'll need a good pair of pincers, and the pincers that we sell, we have especially ground down in order to use them with upholstery work. We grind down the edge here so that it gets in really tight to your work, and we blunt between the blades so that it doesn't simply cut the staple or cut the tack as you're trying to pull it out. And I'll show you how to use those. And then of course you need a good wooden mallet for hitting the handle. The first one I'm demonstrating is the simple basic staple remover, and you'll need to hit the handle with a mallet in that fashion, and the only thing you can do then is bring it up. Don't try and twist it, it's not meant for twisting. You would then need your pincers to get hold of the staple, and if you roll the pincers, which is what they're designed for, it will pull it out. What you shouldn't be doing with pincers is pulling, using a pulling action. You can hurt your arm when you do that, at your shoulder, and it's not necessary. They're designed for rolling, and the action of rolling pulls them out much easier. Don't roll onto show wood if you do that. Try and roll onto a piece of old upholstery or a piece of wood that's not show wood, but that's what they're used for. These particular ones have a lovely padded handle, so they're very nice to use. The second one is the Osborne staple remover, and as you can see, that one will get underneath the staple. These are in quite tight because we're demonstrating on a piece of MDF, and MDF is the densest, well it's like very dense hardwood, and that, as you can see, has got it quite a way out. In fact, almost both legs of the staple are out, and you can roll and take the rest out. The next tool I'm going to show you is the Berry staple remover, and that one is used on its side in this fashion, again tapping on the handle, and once you get the staple in the tool inside the staple, you can then twist in either direction and pull the staple out. So that one is designed for twisting. Other tools that you'll find you're using when you're ripping out is a tack lifter is not normally used for ripping out, but it can be useful at times. That's generally used whilst you're doing the work and you want to remove the odd staple. The tool, and you can see this one is well used, well worn, has a London handle, what we call a London handle, with a nice bold knob on the end. This is a ripping chisel, cranked as it's called, or a bent ripping chisel, but cranked is the term that's normally used. And I find that quite a good angle. Now you can see how this handle has been worn, and that's the way it's used, is generally hitting the end and then hitting the top, which is why that's worn. And I'll show you how that's used. You should always knock staples out in the direction of the grain of the wood, and the grain normally runs round a frame. So what you don't want to do is be working at this angle, because you will normally find that you'll knock a piece of wood out at the same time because you're going across the grain. You should do less damage if you use it in this direction. Now you want to get the tool underneath the tack, and once you've got it there, you can see there that's knocked it out. And that was several taps on this end of the handle, and that last one was on the top, and it flicked the tack out. And the reason that a tack will come out at that angle is because it has a tapered shaft, and therefore it allows it to be knocked sideways. So I'll attempt to do a second one for you. Again there, and you can see it's knocked it out. Make sure there's nobody in the firing line when they're shooting across the room. When you're working on your work, you may find that this one for the odd tack is quite useful, more useful. If you've knocked it home, you'll need to use a mallet like that to take it out. But if you haven't knocked it home, let's demonstrate one. If there's one where you're temporary tacking, which means the tack's only halfway in, which is the best way to do it until you're sure your work's correct, you just should be able to take that out. But for speed, when you're ripping out, you're likely to be going along and just keep taking them out. You'll find with this one, the tacks can get stuck between it, and that will slow you down. The ripping chisel will give you a speedy removal of the tacks by just keep going along a tack line with your ripping chisel.